Stilton, who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Henry VII.
Edward VI. Which country's so-called Rose Revolution of 2003 led to the resignation of its president, Edward Shevardnadze?
Yugoslavia.
No, it was Georgia.
When Deputy Prime Minister played dress-up, the £32,000 gift scandal reshaping British diplomacy. Right, before we dive into this absolute car crash of diplomatic etiquette, smash that subscribe button because trust me, you're going to want to catch every single scandal we uncover on this channel. The establishment won't tell you these stories, but we will. Picture this scene, if you will. David Lammy, Deputy Prime Minister, standing in an opulent Kuwaiti palace, being handed gift after gift like some sort of diplomatic Christmas morning. Cartier pens gleaming under crystal chandeliers, choppered watches that cost more than most people's annual salary, and jewelry that would make the crown jewels blush. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely bonkers by British standards of propriety. The Crown Prince of Kuwait, Sabah Khalid Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, didn't just pop down to Harrow for a quick gift selection. Oh no, this was a carefully curated collection worth over £32,000. Let that sink in for a moment. £32,000. That's more than half the median UK salary handed over in luxury trinkets to our Deputy Prime Minister during what was supposed to be serious diplomatic business. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's rather generous, isn't it? But hold your horses, because this is where British bureaucracy meets Middle Eastern hospitality, and the collision is nothing short of spectacular. Under British law, government ministers can keep gifts worth up to £140 without batting an eyelid or filling out a single form. Anything above that threshold, and you've got two choices: pay for it yourself at market value, or hand it over to your department like a child surrendering sweets to a stern headmaster. Lammy, to his credit, chose the latter option. Every single gift, from the £18,000 Fred jewelry collection to the £2,500 perfume selection, was dutifully surrendered to the Foreign Office. One can only imagine the conversation. Right then, David, lovely trip to Kuwait, I see. Now, what's this about a choppered watch? The poor civil servants probably needed smelling salts. But here's where the plot thickens like a good British gravy. Because while Lammy was playing by the rules with his Kuwaiti treasure trove, our Prime Minister was engaging in what can only be described as selective gift retention. Sir Keir Starmer, that paragon of Labour virtue, decided to keep a special edition whiskey gifted by none other than Donald Trump's Turnberry Golf Resort during the former president's recent visit to Britain. The irony is absolutely delicious, isn't it? Here we have a Prime Minister who built his political career on integrity and transparency, keeping a bottle of Scottish whiskey from a man whose tariffs are currently strangling the very industry that produced it. American tariffs on Scotch whiskey sit at 10%, a rather painful reminder that special relationships in politics often come with very unspecial price tags. The timing couldn't be more perfect if it was scripted by a particularly cynical political satirist. During Trump's visit, the UK government was practically on its knees begging for those whiskey tariffs to be reduced. Scotland's First Minister John Swinney emerged from bilateral discussions claiming Trump had expressed willingness to address the matter. Meanwhile, Starmer's tucking away a bottle of the very product being held hostage by American trade policy. You couldn't make this up if you tried. The gift exchange during Trump's visit reads like a diplomatic yard sale catalog. Starmer presented the American with a golf club and a book, because nothing says special relationship like enabling someone's golf obsession and hoping they might actually read something. In return, Trump's people handed over that whiskey, which is now presumably sitting in Downing Street, gathering dust and irony in equal measure. But let's not forget the French contribution to this diplomatic gift bonanza. Emmanuel Macron, ever the sophisticated European, presented our Prime Minister with a tie and a book, because apparently everyone thinks Starmer needs more reading material. Lady Victoria Starmer received a leather wallet from the French president, while Brigitte Macron's gift has mysteriously been held by number 10, whatever that euphemism might mean in the corridors of power. The transparency data reveals more fascinating tidbits that paint a picture of modern British diplomacy that's part serious statecraft, part elaborate gift exchange program. Take Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's haul from Saudi Arabia: perfume, a robe, a pen, and a cashmere item worth over £1,000 in total. Did she keep them? Not a chance. Straight to the Home Office they went, because apparently Cooper learned a lesson that Lammy applied to his Kuwaiti collection. There's something quintessentially British about this entire affair, isn't there? The meticulous recording, the bureaucratic procedures, the agonizing over whether a gift is worth £141 or £139. While other nations might handle diplomatic gift with a casual wave of the hand, Britain turns it into an administrative exercise that would make Kafka proud. The Saudi gift to Cooper are particularly fascinating when you consider the current state of UK-Saudi relations. Here's a government that's been trying to balance human rights concerns with energy security and defense contracts, and they're exchanging perfume and cashmere like they're at a diplomatic Tupperware party. The optics are either refreshingly honest about the transactional nature of international relations or deeply troubling, depending on your perspective. But let's talk about what these gifts really represent, because they're not just expensive trinkets changing hands between powerful people. They are symbols of influence, markers of relationships, and sometimes subtle attempts at soft corruption. The Kuwaiti gift to Lammy weren't randomly selected luxury items. They were carefully chosen status symbols designed to create a sense of obligation, however subconscious. The fact that British law requires such transparency around these gifts is actually rather brilliant, even if the implementation sometimes borders on the absurd. Every Cartier pen, every choppered watch, every bottle of whiskey becomes a matter of public record, subject to scrutiny and commentary. It's democracy in action, messy and sometimes embarrassing, but ultimately accountable. What's particularly striking is how these gift exchanges reveal the personal dynamics behind grand diplomatic statements. While official communiques speak of shared values and mutual respect, the gift records tell stories of awkward reciprocity and cultural misunderstandings. Trump gives whiskey to a man whose government is trying to reduce tariffs on that very product. The Saudis give luxury items to officials who publicly criticize their human rights record. It's diplomacy as performance art. The £32,000 price tag on Lammy's haul also raises questions about proportionality and expectation. In diplomatic circles, gift-giving operates on an unspoken scale of reciprocity. When you receive such expensive presents, there's an implicit understanding that equivalent gestures might be expected in return. How do you reciprocally gift someone who's just handed you £18,000 worth of jewelry? A Tower of London tea towel isn't going to cut it. This entire affair also highlights a bizarre world that senior politicians inhabit, where luxury items that would represent life-changing windfalls for ordinary citizens are treated as administrative inconveniences. The casual mention of £2,500 worth of perfume being surrendered to the Foreign Office reads like something from a satirical novel about the disconnect between political elites and regular people. The European dimension adds another layer of complexity. Macron's gifts to the Starmers were modest by comparison, reflecting perhaps a more restrained European approach to diplomatic gift-giving, or possibly just French sophistication in choosing meaningful rather than merely expensive presents. The tie and wallet suggest personal thought rather than departmental procurement. Meanwhile, UEFA and the FA managed to extract £1,060 worth of hospitality from a Prime Minister for attending the Women's Euros final, where England's Lionesses achieved a historic victory. Even sporting diplomacy comes with a price tag, apparently, though one suspect Starmer didn't mind paying that particular bill given the political capital that comes with being seen supporting women's football. The transparency of these records serves multiple purposes beyond mere accountability. They provide fascinating insights into the priorities and relationships of our political leaders. The fact that Lammy surrendered every single Kuwaiti gift while Starmer kept Trump's whiskey tells us something about their different approaches to political risk management. It's worth considering what happens to all these surrendered gifts. Does the Foreign Office have some sort of diplomatic gift warehouse filled with unwanted luxury items from around the world? Are there civil servants whose job it is to catalogue and store choppered watches and thread jewelry? The administrative machinery required to manage this system must be considerable. The timing of these revelations, coming as they do amid broader discussions about political integrity and transparency, couldn't be more relevant. Every expensive gift becomes a potential headline, every luxury item a possible scandal. In an era where public trust in political institutions remains fragile, these seemingly minor details take on outsized significance. What's particularly British about this whole affair is the way it combines genuine principles about public service with almost comic attention to procedural detail. The idea that there's an exact monetary threshold below which gifts don't need to be declared reflects a wonderfully pragmatic approach to human nature and diplomatic reality. The international perspective on these gift exchanges must be equally fascinating. Foreign governments and officials presumably study these transparency reports to understand British political culture and individual politicians' approaches to such matters. Lammy's wholesale surrender of gifts sends one message, while Starmer's selective retention sends quite another. This story represents everything that makes British politics simultaneously admirable and absurd. The commitment to transparency is genuine and important, but the execution sometimes veers into territory that would make minister scriptwriters weep with joy. It's governance by bureaucracy, democracy by disclosure, and politics by procedural manual. The broader implications extend beyond individual politicians to questions about how modern democracies handle the intersection of personal relationships and public service. These gift exchanges are symptoms of deeper questions about influence, obligation, and the limits of political friendship in an interconnected world. As we watch this saga unfold, remember that every luxury watch surrendered, every bottle of whiskey retained, and every administrative form completed tells us something important about power, privilege, and the price of public service in modern Britain. The £32,000 question isn't really about the money at all, but about what we expect from our leaders and how we hold them accountable. The system works in a peculiarly British way, creating transparency where other democracies might prefer discretion, and bureaucracy where others might choose simplicity. Whether it makes our politicians more honest or just more carefully administrative remains an open question, but at least we get to watch the show. That's the beauty and the curse of British political culture. Nothing stays hidden for long. Everything gets recorded somewhere, and even the most minor administrative decision can become a matter of public debate. It's messy, it's sometimes ridiculous, but it's undeniably democratic. So there you have it. A foreign secretary who followed the rules to the letter, a prime minister who made selective exceptions, and a political system that turns luxury gift exchanges into matters of public record and democratic accountability. It's not perfect, but it's perfectly British, and in its own way, that's rather reassuring. The transparency might be administratively burdensome, but it ensures that when our leaders receive expensive gifts from foreign powers, we get to know about it, debate it, and ultimately judge them for it. The real gift in all of this isn't the Cartier pen or the Chopard watch, but the system that makes such transparency possible and the democratic culture that demands it. Long may it continue, even if it does produce the occasional administrative comedy of errors. Don't forget to subscribe to UK Connors for more deep dives into the stories that shape British politics. Trust me, if you found this tale of diplomatic gift-giving fascinating, you'll want to be here when we uncover what happens next in the corridors of Westminster power. Hit that notification bell, because in British politics, the next scandal is always just around the corner, and we'll be here to break it down for you with the analysis you won't find anywhere else.